Hello, I'm Toycat, and working out which countries a European country hates is a really easy thing to do. You just ask the people who live there who are you most excited to beat in a game of football. Alternatively, you can say who did you attempt to genocide most recently, and those questions give you a really good feel about who a country really has deep tensions with. But working out who a country likes, on the other hand, a little bit of a different challenge, because people have very different feelings about sharing these sorts of things publicly, and so I figured rather than talking about people's opinions on countries, let's go into the actual data. Where do European people actually move the most frequently? This is a really interesting map that shows the number of nationals that have moved outside the country, as you can see, handily sorted, and then there is a flag on each country to show the most common destination. This obviously is an interesting map because you can see there's a few relatively expected things. Most of Southeast Europe is in Germany because at one point in time that was the most profitable way to get a decent job in so many fields, and then you can also see the interesting stat of the United States being very common for Swedish people, for Germans, and indeed you can see the same thing is kind of true for the UK, for Lithuania, interestingly. Like that entirely backs up my experience of how many Lithuanians I know. There have been Lithuanians around my house talking about how much better houses are built over there so many times, but then as well as that we've got Irish people for the UK, and then interestingly outside of the continent, besides the US, we've got Australia for the UK, and I think that is just about it. Yeah, I mean you could probably, actually wait, Australia also for Malta. That is Australia, right? Interesting, I didn't know that about them. So you can see looking at this that there's an interesting friendliness between France and Spain that doesn't show when you ask them about each other, but yet they're the most common destination for each other's citizens. Whereas Portuguese people skip right over Spain and go straight to France if they're going anywhere. And the same thing is true if you look around, I don't know, like Norwegians and Finnish people moving to Sweden. In fact, also same with Danish people. Man, Sweden is a popular destination. You can see all sorts of interesting things when you look at maps like this, because it shows where people actually move. I imagine right now if you asked a Ukrainian person, they might have some pretty tense things to say about Russia and vice versa, but they are, and have for most of their history, been brotherly people. So the stats for this are the UN, for what it's worth mentioning, so there probably are some messy things about that statistic. So for example, I haven't, I could be Irish. Am I an Irish person living in the UK? There's a lot of complex things like that, but overall it's like, yeah, you can see that people do move around to countries that you would actually expect. There is a interesting bond that some countries have that isn't always perfectly reciprocated. Russia and Ukraine are the only two countries on this map that are perfectly that way around. You can see that otherwise we've got France and Spain, and then otherwise there's immigration flows that move in a direction from east to west as an example, and then from west to, I guess, the other side of the planet sometimes. So with that said, the other interesting thing you could look at is which country a country Googles the most. This is, if this is the place that you're most willing to live, you're most excited about living, you could most see yourself going to, this is the place you have the most fascination with. And it's interesting because for Eastern Europe, it's very much Russia, 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 which is interesting because it kind of matches this, like Russia, Russia, for the most part, until you realize that these places, with the exception of Latvia, obviously, so, Estonia and Lithuania both would move to a Western country, but they still keep more tabs on Russia and what's going on there. You can see the kind of cultural intrigue that countries have right here. So all these countries also love Germany, but then Germany, instead of, the Germans will move to the US for work, because in the same way these countries will move to Germany for work, Germans can get a better salary in the US, but then they're also fascinated by Italian culture. I can agree with this myself. Like, I don't think I'd live in Italy, but I like the idea of visiting it, and I'm fascinated by what is the true Italian opinion on, what is a pizza and stuff like this. I have an Italian friend, and she moved from Italy when she was like 17, and I'm just fascinated to hear a lot of her opinions on stuff, but I wouldn't go back home with her for more than a few days, and that is matched by this map, right? And so you can see that Spain Googles France, but although French people go to Spain, they Google Italy much more commonly. And then a lot of Turkey and Russia in the area. You probably do have to keep a tabs on your neighbor when it's that big, and maybe has a fascination with invading their friends. Speaking of invading their friends, here is here are the people I'd like to invade the most. So this is just a Reddit poll, but it is an interesting idea of who Europeans think are the most attractive. There is this huge bias in Europe that everyone thinks Sweden is where the attractive women are, right? And I mean, anecdotally from, just a few weeks there, it's like, yeah, there is something about that. And so maybe all these people who think Swedish people, they're moving to Sweden, they're not moving there because it's culturally similar to them. They're just like, that's where the hot ladies are. And that is Is that a valid reason to move somewhere, actually? You know, I don't know if it is, but what I do know is that every country has something like this, by the way. This, like, weird love of a certain part of their... You know, obviously saying Canada is a country and the EU is a country, kind of controversial, but every, you know, within the big countries like this, you can see that, like, yeah, Canada has a favorite province, and if you're, you know, bordering Alberta, you like Alberta a lot, right? You're like, ooh, yeah, they're such good guys. If you're bordering Saskatchewan, oh, they've got a cute relationship. That's Saskatchewan, that's Alberta. They love each other. Whereas Ontario and British Columbia, like no one, and how does that possibly come up as a statistic? And, you know, in Quebec, they like Ontario, but it's not reciprocated. And then, funnily enough, in the, you know, in the maritime provinces, they like Nova Scotia a lot. Everyone in the Maritimes aspires to be Nova Scotian, except Nova Scotia, who actually likes New Brunswick. Isn't that cute? I think that's cute. But then you can also see the least favorite province, so Quebec and British Columbia hate Alberta, whereas everyone else goes, oh, Quebec. Because funnily enough, while we're talking about the flows of people, right, we have to mention that, like, when, you know, people moving around the world, this is a fun thing that people like to do. So, actually, you know what, first, I just want to show you this map first. Every state's least favorite state. Did I really get a map without the key on it? This is the high quality preparedness for this video. You know what, can I tell you something, internet? There's a video I wanted to make for a while. It was about languages in the US, but I found this map and it was so interesting when I first found it. I was like, I need to store this somewhere valuably, but I have no idea what this map is off. It's something to do with language, and I'm guessing probably Spanish speakers. Is it like an English minority places in the US? Because it also includes Miami. Wait, let me show you. It includes Miami-Dade County over there. What's the situation with this map? Could someone tell me? I would like to make this video, but I can't identify my own map. I've got this map of the largest Hispanic group to show, like, ooh. First of all, I didn't know neo-Mexicans were a thing until this, but also, isn't it interesting that, like, you know, Latino people mean something entirely different based on where you are? Can mean Guatemalans if you live in this county of, anyway, so... Yeah, you know, maps without keys, they're really good, right? What am I meant to do with this? It's gotta be something to do with Mexico, because otherwise it wouldn't be so border-based. Is it Spanish-speaking majority places? There was a map I wanted to find about, in fact, I had a whole video planned about, like, places where they don't speak English in the US, because there are some parts of Texas where German is the basic language still. It's fascinating. But anyway, with that said... Let's talk about where the world wants to move to, because obviously this map shows where people do low it. This is the Zootopia Transit Authority. I wanted to make a video, you know, is this video just talking about video ideas? I wanted to talk about what a dumb transit map they used in Zootopia, but that's, you know, anyway, so this is the map is frozen. I can't leave this tab. I guess we're stuck staring at it now. Okay, so I wanted to go, you know, if these are the places that people move the most often, these are the places the world wants to move to. So this is, you know, this is from Remitly. It's like they put together a map basically using just Google searches for how to move abroad to. And the most common country people picked was Canada, followed by Japan. And you can see that looking at this map. Like, if we look at this in some real detail, you can see the majority of people around the world would love to move to Canada. In fact, when we say around the world, we mean almost all African countries, right? Besides Mozambique moving to Portugal. In fact, Portugal has a couple of nice mentions. Brazilians want to move to Portugal, and so do Mozambicans. So 2 Portuguese majority countries wanting to move to what might be the best, you know, like the highest income Portuguese-speaking place on the planet. Then we look around, you can see Icelandic people want to move to Denmark, Danish people want to move to Norway, Swedish people want to move to Spain. It's all over the place, right? You know, you can see that, right? Like, this is like a cultural thing, this is a cultural thing, this is a income thing, clearly, and this is like a, you know, like they don't want to live somewhere so cold and miserable. You can see there's I would say the problem with this map is it kind of like overzooms when you Google, how do you move somewhere that you actually want to go? Clearly there's a lot of Americans like, I would love to live in Japan. But how many actually do it? How many Americans actually go to Japan? Same with Canadians, clearly. But what this does tell us are the most desirable countries that places people would like to move to. One of the interesting things about why you should have good politics as a country, one of the reasons you should project such a good image, and you'll see this if you ever go to a British airport, like a whole country is set up like a giant advertising campaign. if you haven't been to Heathrow, you'll see it next time you go. You know what I mean? But like a whole country is sort of like an advertising campaign because we want people to be like, yeah, how do we get people to want to move over here? How do we get people from all over the world to think, yeah, the UK would be a good place to go to for all those weird reasons? Some people will move to somewhere because the country projects such a good image, and Canada does a really good job at that. They don't have the largest flow of migrants in the world. I mean, not even close. But the fact that if 30 separate countries, it is the #1 most Googled place is a win. Same with Japan. I don't know if that's like a politics thing necessarily, but you know, in a way it is. They are very, very, very friendly to Western world countries, even though it's like, you know, like it's not necessarily an easy thing for them to do. With Spain, I think that's an interesting thing about their tourist market. Spain is very heavily geared towards tourists. I'm sure there's a bunch of crazy things they love to do, and they think, wait, no, how will this affect people who want to come here on holiday? And it's a very, very big thing, right? So yeah, then Germany being 4th is interesting, like probably expectable. Qatar being 5th is what makes this feel so weird to me, because looking around the Middle East, you can see Oman, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and Sri Lanka, as well as the Maldives, all want to go to Qatar. I can understand Sri Lanka as like, you know, like a source of migrant workers. As a Sri Lankan myself, you know, did you know I have a Sri Lankan grandmother? I bet you didn't. This has never come up on the channel before. But yeah, also, but then Qataris want to go to Canada. It's all very confusing. I think I've heard a lot of Middle Eastern people have the goal of Canada because it's like America, but you're actually allowed to claim asylum there. So it's very interesting to see that right there. It's interesting to see UAE people going to South Korea, and it's really, really interesting when you look around like, okay, first of all, why is there no data for these countries? Like, Greenland never has data, I understand that, but like, most of Africa and China, I want to know where Chinese people want to move to. I'm guessing it's a language thing for that. Japanese people want to move to the UK. In fact, the only country that wants to move to the UK is, as best I can tell, Japan. Do you see any others on this list? Let's look around, actually. I want to feel complimented. Who wants to move to my country? Is it Mexicans want to go to Canada? Belizeans want to go to Canada? Everyone wants to go to Spain, so Spanish-speaking countries go to Spain. There's a language thing here. Okay, St. Lucia, we got St. Lucians, and we got Japanese people. We don't need the rest of you. Whereas Canada is winning the getting people to at least look into moving their war, which is impressive. When you have you ever seen Canada? Like you know, like it's a big country. It's very cold. Do you want me to show you? I feel like if I show you a really cold city, it won't be cold because Google usually only does Street View in the summer, right? So, okay, well this is great, isn't it? Okay, is there see more dates? What do we got? We got they never do it during the snowy season. Just imagine this, but it's cold is my point. You know, like getting people to move to Canada is a hard thing. Saying like, oh yeah, how would you like to have a slightly lower salary than the United States and also be very cold and have to shovel your driveway every day? You know, like it's a hard pitch when you look at their geographic neighbor, and so a large part of their country is about this international image. The same thing with the UK, if you think about it. Like, yeah, how do you get people to move to a sad island that's filled with plague? And you gotta, what you gotta do is you gotta make a big image campaign about it. And so that is a fun thing. This video, indeed, as a whole, was a fun thing. And what do you know? I made a video that wasn't 20 minutes long. I'm really impressed with myself. I wear a suit, and all of a sudden, I'm ready to punch through the video, get things done. If you would like for me to be able to buy more suits, because this one is from, like, I don't know, I was like 16 or 17 when I got it. I just wear it sometimes, and then I have it in a box, and I'm like, oh god, the suit doesn't have a place, so I wear the suit again. And anyway, if you want to support me having a place to put my suit, go to patreon.com/toycat, and oh look, I got 30 patrons, and they buy me delicious looking kebabs like this. I will not use the money to improve this channel in any way. The money will go straight into frivolous purchases for myself. Don't you worry. And with that said, I look forward to seeing you for a video about whatever this is soon. Seriously, if you want to see a video, you have to solve this one for me. It's an interesting map. It was so interesting I saved it, and I was like, this is going to be real good. But just, yeah, what is it? What's the deal? We were going to get the fun thing of majority-minority in the US. It was going to be a good video. I have a ton of like video ideas, like things that I got like 80% of the way making and then just didn't. So this is a list of revolutions and coups d'etats in Haiti. Fun list, right? This is my country's visited map. I can add some more places to this soon. What do you know? I've been to Maine. Oh, that's New Brunswick. What do you know? I've been some places since this one. It's gonna be good. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Unless I don't. Goodbye. That's a good ending, I think.